Hello everybody and welcome back to Unit 1 of Regents Chemistry, which is Math of Chem. Today we will be talking about the last part of significant figures, which will be doing different types of calculations including addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division using the significant figures. So let's quickly look at the multiplication and division first. So let's say you are given a number and you have to do multiplication and division and then put your answer in sig figs. The rules that you want to remember is that first of all, you just go ahead and multiply or divide just like you do regularly as in math. And then for the sig figs, you count the number of sig figs in both of your numbers or all of your numbers, doesn't depending on how many numbers you have in the question. So you count the number of sig figs in each one of them, and then you take the lowest number. You take the one with the fewest number of sig figs, and that's how many sig figs you want your answer to have. So in your result, if let's say you have more numbers, like after you have done your multiplication and division and you get more sig figs than what you need in your answer, then you'll just have to round that to the correct number of sig figs. If you get less numbers than what you need, you will have to add some zeros or decimals so that you do have the correct number of sig figs in your answer. Okay, so let's look at some examples. Here we have a multiplication problem. We have 7.55 meters multiplying with 0.34 meters. So the first thing we do is just 7.55 times 0.34, which gives us 2.567. Now we want to make sure that we have the correct number of sig figs. So the first number in the question, 7.55, has, when we try to find the number of sig figs, it has a decimal, so we start from the Pacific side. As soon as we hit the first non-zero digit, which is 7, we start counting. So that would be 1, 2, and 3. We have 3 sig figs. In the second number, once again the decimal is present, so we start from the Pacific side, and as soon as we hit the first non-zero digit, which is 3, we count our sig figs, which is going to be 2. So how many sig figs do we want to have in our answer? Well, the least of the two. So our answer is going to have 2 sig figs because that's the least number that we have. So we will have to round this 2.567 to 2 sig figs. How many do we have right now? The decimal is present. Start from the Pacific side and start counting. We get 4 sig figs. Okay, when we round this to 2, we want to keep the 2, we want to keep the 5, and then we look at the next number, which is a 6, greater than 5, which means we can add 1 to our last sig fig. So the final answer will be 2.6 meters. Let's look at another example. This one's for division. We have 2.4526 grams divided by 8.4 milliliters. So first thing that we do is just 2.4526 divided by 8.4, and that gives us 0.29198 milliliters. Okay, now we want to count the sig figs in both the question and the answer that we have right now. So in the question, in the first number, we have a decimal present, so start from the Pacific side. We get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sig figs because we start from the first non-zero digit, which is 2, and we get 5 sig figs. In the next number, 8.4, once again the decimal is present, so start from the Pacific side. As soon as we hit the first non-zero digit, which is 8, we count our significant figures to be 2. So how many do we want in our answer? We want 2 because 2 is the least number. How many do we have right now though? Well, the decimal is present, so start from the Pacific side. As soon as we hit the first non-zero digit, which is 2, we get 5 significant figures. Now when we round this to 2 sig figs, we want to keep the 2 and we want to keep the 9. And the next number is a 1, which is less than 5, so which means our 0.29 can just stay 0.29 milliliters. That's our answer. Okay, now let's quickly look at how can we perform the addition and subtraction, making sure that we have the correct number of sig figs in our answer. The first thing you do is just go ahead, do your addition and subtraction just like we regularly do, and then rather than counting, and this is what makes this part, the addition and subtraction, easier compared to multiplication and division, is that here you don't have to count the sig figs in all of your numbers in the question and then your answer, and then make sure you have the least in your answer, all you have to do for this one, for addition and subtraction, is count the decimal places. So remember, decimal places are the digits that you have after the decimal on the right hand side of the decimal. So if, let's say, you had three numbers in the question, first one has 2 decimal places, second has 1 decimal place, and the last one has 3 decimal places, you want your answer to have 1 decimal place only. We don't care how many numbers we have before that, but after the decimal, we should only have 1. So that's how addition and subtraction goes. Now, if, let's say, you have more than what you need, you'll just go ahead and round it to just so we can have the correct number of sig figs. So here's an example. We've got 12.52 plus 349 plus 8.24. When we add all three of them, this is the answer that we get. Now we have to go ahead and find the decimal places in all of our numbers in the question. The first number has 2 decimal places. Okay, 2 digits after the decimal. The second number has 1 decimal place. And then the last number has 2 decimal places again. So we want our answer to have the least out of these three, which means we want our answer to have 1 decimal place only. But right now we have 2. So that means we'll keep the 7 and we'll have to get rid of the 6. Now the 6 is greater than 5, which means we can add 1 to the 7. So our final answer will be 369.8 meters. Here's another example for subtraction this time. So 74.66 minus 28.34. When we do the math, we get 46.286. Now it's time to count the decimal places. The first number in our question has 3 decimal places. The second number has 2 decimal places. How many do we want in our answer? The least out of these two. So that would be 2 decimal places. How many do we have right now? Well, we have 3 right now. So that means we would want to keep the 2 and we would want to keep the 8. And then we'll get rid of the 6. Now the 6 is greater than 5, so that means we can go ahead and add 1 to the 8. So the final answer becomes 46.29 meters. Alrighty guys, that was it for the significant figures. If you are having trouble with any of this, please make sure that you watch all 3 of these videos again. And I will see you guys in the next video for this chapter.